Alright, this used to be my hometown Toys R Us, and we all know what happened there. Since it's closed, I haven't had much reason to come to this side of town because there was nothing else toy related. But I happened to be over here shopping and I cut through the back lot because it's a shortcut, and I saw this. Oh, come on now, don't get nostalgic on me. It didn't hit me when Toys R Us first closed. I just figured, you know, oh, okay, anything less, but I'd sure like a dedicated toy store to walk into and browse around and pick up some action figures. I wonder who I'd have to talk to get that. Okay, people, welcome back to another Fwoosh Weekly. As always, I'm Robo, and yep, it's Sunday again. After looking at the numbers and seeing the responses and just sitting down and thinking about it, yeah, weekly's on Sunday. For now. Let's leave it here for a bit, see what happens. Because on top of all that, and to get a little behind the scenes on you, my wife recently got a new job where 1 week she works Friday and is off Saturday, and then the next week she's off Friday and works Saturday. So this change fits in with that and works so much better. 1 week I'll shoot later in the day Friday, catch all that toy news, do some editing, post to Patreon for Saturday morning, YouTube Sunday morning. And then the next week I'll shoot on Saturday, edit, post to Patreon that night, and then it'll still hit YouTube Sunday. Basically on Patreon it's jumping back and forth a little bit. On YouTube, Sunday, steady. Appease that almighty algorithm. Just think of it as Sunday school with your old Uncle Robo, where we'll be going through all the plastic idols of the week. Okay. Let's start off with a little Kyoto Amazing Yamaguchi My Hero Academia news, because it's been a while. Hawks and Endeavor were solicited way back in July, and besides them, there's only been Spider-Man 2.0 a couple of months ago. That's it. But with Endeavor scheduled for February and then Hawks in March, it's time to announce a new character. You know, like Kirishima. And best of all, at least from a personal preference standpoint, they're doing the later costume with the black sleeves. Nothing against the earlier bare arms, I just like this look. If this is the look they're doing, because all we have at this point is this picture. Because of that, we can only guess at the accessories. I mean, surely there's going to be an optional head showing more teeth, because that's really one of his defining traits. And then you got to have swappable arms, more than likely, with the rocky texture. What else? They usually try to throw a lot of things at these figures, and we'll know soon enough, though. They said that a painted prototype will be shown at Winter Festival 2023 in 2 weeks. And I'll bet you there's a lot more goodies going to be shown there too. Ooh. Which is a good thing, because Toy Fair is no longer in February. It's now late summer. This gives us something to look at, something to look forward to. Bring on the imports. Another announcement without a lot of information is the Jakks Pacific Super Mario Bros. Movie line. I think these slipped out at a Walmart or two a couple of weeks ago, so Jakks decided to make it official this week. The designs don't stray too far from the iconic looks for Mario and Luigi and Peach and Toad, but there's definitely some tweaks. The body's slightly elongated, a pinch of realism, the stare into your soul and uncover your deepest, darkest secrets effect. I think there was talk that the eyes have some kind of gimmick where they follow you around the room, and that makes sense because if you look at the pictures real close, they look sunken a bit, like there's an edge and then very, very glassy. But like I said, these are based on the movie. That's kind of what they look like. Modernized a bit for a new audience. IGN says they'll be taking a first look at the figures on February 26th. So, depending on scale, we'll either talk about them more as pictures come out or figures actually release, or this will be the only time I give them a gander. They may be big, they may be small. I'm hoping for somewhere right there. Mezco confused January with October and solicited their 1/12 collective Lord of Tears Owlman. Whoa, wait. Don't look at the pictures yet. Close your eyes. Form an image in your head when I say the words Owlman. You got it? Now open them. Is this what you pictured? If it is this, I can see that. It's a man with owl parts. But me, as soon as I read Owlman, I pictured this. And I got super excited. I'm not buying a lot of Mezco these days, but they'd get me on a 1/12 collective DC Owlman. Lord of Tears Owlman, it's a cool look, but it's not in my alley. But if you're into this, here you go. Hell, even if you've never seen the movie, which honestly I didn't know was a thing, looking at this, the big owl head, the large talons, the long coat, the stretched out body, this will fit just fine next to your Atticus Dooms, your Doc Nocturnals, that shelf. Also includes some blood splatter, an altar, a skull, a decapitated head, keys, and feathers. All for $100. If you're into it, this may be your only chance at an Owlman figure. Speaking of DC, see how I did that? Right in there. We had already seen tidbits of the McFarlane Toys Page Punchers Aquaman wave, but you know the deal. First we get the glamour shot, the reveal itself, and then maybe a pic or two of the team together, some teases, and then solicitations, which means promo images, which means more stuff to look at. For Aquaman himself, very interesting. You know I love a good beard. And I prefer my Aquaman with long hair. The classic color scheme is all there, embellished with some armor bits and bobs. I don't even mind the silver on top of the oranges and the greens and the golds. It's the actual shirt that makes me go, what? It's not that it's some kind of scale. I am completely good with that. I mean, it's Aquaman. But it's the size and the shape. It's almost like he sat down with the kids for some arts and crafts and they strung together some Cheetos and the kids were like, hey, we can make a shirt and you can wear it on your next mission. And Aquaman's like, okay, I will do that. Totally thinking that they will forget by then and he won't have to do it. But the next mission comes along and they're like, oh, you need to wear our Cheeto shirt. And by then it's been underwater and it's kind of soggy and sagging and looking weird and he can't disappoint those kids. So, here it is. Even weirder, it doesn't match the comic that the figure comes with. It's much more subdued in the artwork. What I'm trying to say is I'm not a fan of that one aspect. Well, okay, I have two nitpicks. What's with this kind of narrow feet and ankles with that big a body on top of it? Because that carries over to the rest of the wave like Black Manta, who otherwise is a good looking figure, but I firmly believe that this design is really hard to screw up. I mean, you could say the helmet is a bit small. Is there a human head under there? I don't know, but looking at the overall piece, the blacks, the sheens, the shines, the sleekness, the slickness, the orange accents make it even better. What can I say? I also really like this Ocean Master design. It takes what I picture in my head and multiplies it by lots of ocean and lots of master. There's more points, there's more plates. It's just to the power of 2 Ocean Masters, all squashed into one figure. You know? We also don't see that crackled texture on the pants a lot when it comes to action figures. I like it. It's unique. It works. It obviously drew my eye right off the bat, but at the same time I'm like, oh, that is kind of cool. And then finally, there's Aqualad. And compared to the rest, the costume is much more subdued, but still fits in. And see the mail on the shirt here? That should have been on Aquaman. Doesn't matter if they match. In fact, that's a good thing. Still better than the cheesy puffs hanging all over his chest. But my favorite aspect are the water blades and how they work into the light blue on the arms. This may be my favorite of the wave, actually. $25 a pop, due out in March. So of course, as soon as I change up the schedule, while still recording on Friday, McFarlane Toys comes along on Saturday and does a new reveal. Here is the McFarlane Toys store exclusive gold label Dick Grayson Robin. Mostly reuse of the Dark Knight Returns Carrie Kelly Robin. Makes sense. I mean, if it works, it works. But there is a new head sculpt that looks really, really good. Fits in with that classic feel. Then there's also scales added to the trunks. Appropriate. We've been talking about scales for the past 2-3 minutes, huh? McFarlane Toys also replied about the hand situation, and there should be 8 different ones. Even here we can see a thumbs up and then a open hand kind of clawed look. And that's all we got at the moment. Oh, well, it will go up on the McFarlane Toys store February 7th, so be on the lookout for that. And then the hits just keep on coming with Executive Replicas and LooseCollector. There's figures working their way through the factories with an update to Red Sonja last week and Purgatori this week. And like Red Sonja, she's looking good in final factory form, and the tweaks make it even better than the prototype. There's been extra hands added, there's more texture and shape to the wings, the neck's been shortened, and then, probably my favorite, the swappable hairpiece for a less windswept look. Don't get me wrong, the original is dynamic. It adds movement to the figure, but given a choice 9 times out of 10, I'm gonna go for the more relaxed option. And even then, it's not like it's just laying there. There's still some life to it On top of being a different look altogether, it took me a minute to realize there's bangs to it. And then to add to the overall value, it also looks like they're including an open mouth screaming head. I think they're shooting for a Q1 release here, so it shouldn't be too much longer. But that also means new pre-orders, like the 2-pack with Rocketeer and Betty. I actually don't know too much about these characters. I'm familiar with the movie from the 90s, but I don't think I've seen it since the 90s. So it's been a while. I just know I like that retro pilot adventurer with a slight sci-fi twist vibe. The rocket pack threw me at first, so I did some Googling and oh, that lavender with the single booster, that's comic book. That's also where I learned that his girlfriend in the comics was based on Betty Page, which makes sense because that's the first thing I thought of when I saw this figure. I thought it was just a random team up, like, hey, we can make these two figures, put them together. But nope, this works on a couple of levels. But again, this is a 2-pack, and I've seen comments of, I only want the Rocketeer or I only want Betty. But maybe it's a marketing thing, maybe it's a licensing thing, because we have seen Rocketeer figures from Diamond Select and Funko. And I'm guessing that this isn't using clear joints. Funko. $150 scheduled for June. The marketing licensing talk segues nicely into the many times that I have stated that I am no lawyer. I don't even attempt to play one here on YouTube, so take everything I'm about to ramble about with a grain of salt, or take the whole shaker, because it's a bumpy ride. First, it started back in July of 2022 when Bandai announced their SH Figuarts Spider-Man No Way Home trio of Peters. Nothing fancy, just 3 Spider-Mans in a case, and even then, they look like they were just kind of thrown in there last minute. We gotta get the Spider-Mans out. Because the very next day, or close to it, Hasbro announced their Spider-Man No Way Home Spider-Man 3-pack, which made us all think something odd was going on behind the scenes, because 2 companies announcing nearly the same product 7 to 8 months after the movie actually released. I think both companies had done Holland at that point, but no Maguire, no Garfield. Were there some likeness rights at play? Because no unmasked heads at that point. Or maybe it was Sony or Disney or someone wanting to keep their appearances under wraps, even from the licensors who need a lead time to get their product out. Still crazy timing though. Again, 2 companies, same week. The unmasked head thing only lasted a couple of weeks though. That's when Bandai solicited the Tobey Maguire figure with unmasked head. Unmasked Andrew followed about a month later with that pre-order. Then the Tom Spider-Man pre-order happened, where they snuck in another Maguire unmasked head, just happy to be here. But then the Tom Holland heads were in witness protection for some reason. Those were unfuzzed in December, where we found out it was just the same sculpt as the previous Tom Holland Spider-Man with better paint printing on the face, and then a damaged option, which just, again, same sculpt, some smudge. Moving into the past month, I missed the news that the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man and the Tom Holland Spider-Man were both delayed, saying that there would be more news on that later. Well, it is now later. We are all caught up, and Bandai has now canceled the unmasked Andrew Garfield heads. The press release says that all existing orders will be canceled, and then it has been resolicited for reorder this weekend. And yeah, I said heads, plural. I may have missed something, but I don't have any pictures of a second unmasked Andrew Garfield head. That same press release specifically says the resolicitations will exclude 2 types of replacement heads, along with that accessory of the hanging down mask that he pulls off his head, and then the hands to hold that piece. Those are all gone. The reason states, quote, due to the progress of commercialization, it has become difficult to commercialize the product with the current specifications. Again, reiterating that I am nowhere near any kind of lawyer smart, but that sure sounds like some likeness rights issues, maybe a time limit thing. I don't know. You now have as much info as I have. Do with that what you will. It looks like the Tobey Maguire is still set to release in March with the unmasked heads intact, and then Tom Holland has been pushed to May. Now that I say that out loud, Tom Holland, May, clever bastards. Will things eventually get sorted out, resulting in another release with the Andrew Garfield likenesses? Because that also begs the question, what's going to happen to other companies' versions? Was Marvel Legends planning to do unmasked heads, and now that throws some wrenches into those works? That drifts beautifully into some Hasbro Marvel Legends news. If you're a fan of classic comic type action figures, come, gaze upon the new reveals. But if you hate reuse and pinned limbs, avert your eyes, child. Something wicked this way comes. First, a classic Guardians of the Galaxy Yondu is going to be the perfect companion to that Vance Astro we got 6 years ago. Yeah, it was that long ago. And I ain't gonna lie, when I looked at this, I thought, isn't he supposed to have like pointy shoulder pads and a loincloth type thing? Then I realized my mental image of Yondu was from later, like closer to the 90s. This is more 70s with the streamlined look and the pirate booties. Doesn't break my heart though, because I picture Charlie 27 from that same era. Hasbro wants to give me that and a matching Starhawk and Martinex, then I ain't gonna complain at all. As long as it happens at some point in the next couple of years, because I ain't getting any younger. But since we're talking team building and the wait to complete some groups, Hasbro also announced the Squadron Supreme 2-pack of Hyperion and Dr. Spectrum. Again, classic flavor, but these looks are actually a modern take. Googling McGinnis art from 2021, this is that astonishing effect, where it's very iconic, but modernized. That's why Hyperion has 2 cape clasps. That's a more recent look. And we've already had a figure of this character, but this time around we get a sculpted girdle. And right there, way better. Along with a floating upper torso to compensate for the lack of any movement below that. This is an upgrade. I'll gladly take that old one and right in a tub and replace it with this one. For Dr. Spectrum, this is one of those costumes that was never going to translate into action figure form perfectly. I mean, the crossover on the torso is going to break all to hell when you crunch, and then the blue discs on the underarm. Otherwise, yeah, it works. It's an old body, but it fits the size and shape, right? They said they were phasing out certain bodies. They're still in the phasing out phase of that. They're going to get to the point where they're not going to use this anymore. Probably just in time for people to want upgrades to the bodies that replace this body. And the cycle just keeps on going. Same goes for the pins in the arms and the legs. I've said it time and again. I don't give a shit. Pins make customizing easier. Pinless makes it a lot cleaner. But it still has cuts and gaps and action figure things on it. It's not like you made it seamless all over. Plus I have 500 older figures on the shelves that I am completely cool with. It doesn't matter. Well, okay, except for Spider-Man. When the costume is a split, red on one side, blue on the other, pinless, works perfectly for that. Otherwise, whatever. Saying all that, when they do it half and half style with pinned legs and pinless arms or vice versa, that kind of hits me sideways. It just looks mismatched. I don't care for it. But it's not a deal breaker. For me. I'm throwing that out there. For me. How dare you not hate something as much as I hate it? Rah! Now, how about the rest of the team, Hasbro? No solicitations yet, just pretty promotional pictures and a promise of pre-orders. That's not all from Marvel, though. It's nearing the end of the month. You know what that means. Medicom and new MAFEX. This month, both characters are from the exact same movie. And can you believe Captain America: The Winter Soldier came out 9 years ago? 2014. Seems like yesterday. Also seems like so long ago. Anyway, Bucky. We've gotten a few different versions over the years, but none of them have really scratched that itch. I think Sebastian Stan has one of those faces that's really hard to capture in plastic. And that's, people do say he looks like Mark Hamill, who also has that problem. Now, the unmasked head isn't perfect, but it's closer than what we've seen. I always go back to the SH Figuarts and, yeah. But even then, there's 2 options with masks, too. And the same goes for Stealth Suit Steve. Say that 500 times fast. Stealth Suit Steve, I didn't even make it through one. Evans has that same kind of face. We've seen a lot of figures. Not a lot of them look like Captain America. But the 2 I have on my shelf, Endgame and Infinity War, are both MAFEXs. So I have high hopes here. But at the same time, having those 2 figures on my shelf, I also see some nitpicks. Again, those shoulder straps going under the arms are going to be awkward to get down to the sides. That's just what we've dealt with the first 2 releases. Same thing goes for the spats. That coming down over the ankle like that, it gets in the way of the foot. You're going to get lots of shields here too. Captain America comes with 2. One's blue and then one's clean. And then Winter Soldier comes with the dirtied up one. He also has 3 knives. And no guns. Now they may just be focusing on that one scene where he's juggling the knives, but it kind of feels like for lack of a better word, they're gun shy at this point. They have a lot of restrictions on the DC side of things. Did they just say, well, to hell with it? Well, I mean, Terminator, did he come with? Yeah, he came with guns. Is it just the comic movie type characters? Then again, maybe there is something with Marvel. Remember the SH Figuarts Deadpool that didn't come with his pistols? And now that I say Deadpool, the MAFEX comic book Deadpool didn't come with any guns. Had trigger fingers, no guns. But again, I'm no lawyer. I'm just rambling about what's in front of me or beside me. Right here. Floating in space. $80 a pop, scheduled for next January. And that's all I got this week. If I missed anything, we'll swing back around. There's always the next weekly. Until there's not the next weekly. But hopefully that is the far, 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 far future. Hey everybody, welcome back to Fwoosh Weekly. What was I talking about? But if you enjoyed the weekly, comment, like, subscribe. Much, much love to the plus. If you're interested in seeing videos early or in a position to help out the channel, patreon.com. Wherever you're watching this, I'll always catch you on the Fwoosh. Okay. See you later. Have a nice weekend. I gotta like talking like that. Where'd you go? Hello? Hello?